Konnichiwa. Tashdile to all of you. This is the first word I learned, Konnichiwa, to everybody, to the honorable members of parliament. And you became very emotional when you spoke of the late Prime Minister Abe and your country. I also paid my respect to the late Prime Minister Abe Shinzo, not only for supporting Tibet and Uyghurs and Mongols, but he had a greater vision for the world. Even though this is my first visit to Japan, I have followed him, his visit to India and his relationship with other countries. So I take this opportunity to pay my homage to Abe Shinzo. Also, thank you. I also want to acknowledge the presence of my old acquaintance and a friend, Mr. Makino Seishu, whom I know for a very long time, but we have not met since 2006 in Brussels. So thank you very much. And I also want to thank Mr. Shimomura Hakuban for taking up the responsibility of the chairmanship of Tibet Parliamentary Support Group for Tibet in the Parliament, and also the Honorable Minister for taking responsibility for Uyghurs. I think we need one more member to support the Mongols. That is missing. Okay, next time maybe we should. I also want to thank Ms. Sakurai Yashiko for being the anchor all the time, because politicians come, go, they have a lot of responsibilities, but there are people who are really concerned about the situation inside China, where Tibetans, Uyghurs, and others, Mongols and Hong Kongers are also suffering now. I ask myself as to for what purpose I'm here. If I have an independent nation, today I could be a tourist in Japan, not come with a specific purpose to appeal to the Japanese government and the Japanese people about our cause. You heard my colleagues from Mongolia and Uyghur. It's not just here in Japan. We work internationally together in the sense that we meet regularly at every given opportunity. With the Uyghurs, I have known Erkin Aptikan, who was the first person to really work for Uyghur when there was no voice for Uyghur people. He was based in Germany for a very long time. Unfortunately, he's no more with us. Then that was followed by Rabia Kadir, and now Tolkun Isa and others in the Uyghur government in exile. They have learned from our existence of our democratic function. Now they have elected leadership, and they have become a force to reckon with. Just before sitting here, we were sitting in the green room talking with our friends, and I was inquiring with our Mongolian friend as to what percentage is the population of Mongols in southern Mongolia. And he said it's about 18% now. So they are in the most difficult position compared to all the other nationalities in China. On the Chinese national flag, you see 5 stars. One is a big star and 4 small stars. Chinese national flag is supposed to be one flag that does not have an official explanation. But people do realize that the big star is the Han Chinese, and the other 4 stars are Manchus, Mongols, Uyghurs, and Tibetans. Now, Manchuria is no more there. People hardly speak any Manchukuo language. So Manchuria is gone. So it's time to take off 1 star from that national flag. And another few decades down the line, it'll be time to remove all other 4 stars. Then there will be only 1 star on Chinese national flag. And that is what President Xi Jinping is pushing for now. 1 country, 1 culture, 1 language. As Mr. Shimomura Hagubon mentioned about Tibet's history, and my colleagues also mentioned about their own country's history. Tibet was an independent country, there is no doubt about it. I spoke about this at the parliamentary group meeting also. It's not just the Tibetans talking about Tibetan independence, but now you have a Chinese professor, Professor Lau Han-tin, who is now based in San Diego, who has written a book arguing about how Tibet is not a part of China. So he looked at the imperial Chinese records of the Yuan, the Ming, and the Qing, and he categorically proves that whether it's the Yuan, which is actually the Mongols, it's not Chinese, or the Manchus, or the Ming, or the Manchus, they have never ever considered Tibet as part of China historically. So that is up to 1911. And another Western scholar called Michael Van Wald, he has come out with a book called Tibet 2020 in the last 2 years. And his book was based on research over 8 years, sitting with some 70, 80 scholars, not just from China, but from the whole of Inner Asia. And he proves beyond doubt that whether it's Tibet's relationship with the Mongols, or Tibet's relation with the Ming, or Tibet's relation with the Manchus, or as per international law today, Tibet has never been considered part of China. So based on these 2 books, we did manage to organize, our friends in the US Congress managed to organize experts' testimony in the US Congress on the historical status of Tibet. Based on the same content, we managed to convince our friends in the US Congress to move a bill regarding the historical status of Tibet. It has already been moved on July 13th, and it might take some time, but this will be a turning point in our struggle. Maybe later we can talk a little more about what can be done, but in addition to what my colleagues said, what has happened in Uyghur, what has already happened in Mongolia, the same thing is happening in Tibet. The latest report of DNA testing of the Tibetan people from 2016 to 2022, more than 1 million Tibetans have undergone DNA testing without their permission. And the main purpose of the DNA testing, which is happening now in Tibet and which has happened to Uyghur before, is for social control of the people and then crime control. So these are the main reasons why China is organizing this DNA testing, taking it to a much higher level of surveillance. So it's not just the Tibetans inside Tibet, but Tibetans who come to visit their families, and very few who get this opportunity also get tested for DNA. The second point I want to touch is the current situation that the Tibetans are suffering now because of the misguided zero COVID policy in China. Right now in the Tibetan capital, Lhasa alone, about 20 to 30% of the population have been moved out of the city in very bad conditions. People were put up what they call as home for 10 people. So whether you are sick or not sick, you are all put together like animals. in one house, and then they are taken every night. More than 1,000 people are taken out of Lhasa to remote areas, presumably for treatment. But very few get good food or medicine. Most of the people don't have any medicine, no good food. Now there are a lot of cries from inside Tibet, which you can see even on YouTube, people appealing for help. So all this is happening because of the stubbornness of one person, President Xi Jinping, to follow this policy.
なぜこういうことが起きているかと言いますと、習主席の政策、そして習主席自身の顔面さゆえであります。
And the third issue that I want to bring forth to the Japanese public is the colonial boarding schools in China, which my friends also mentioned.
そして3点目として日本国民の皆様にぜひお知りおきいただきたいのが、演者の方のお一人がおっしゃった植民地主義的な寄宿学校についてです。
Just before coming to Japan, I called up one of my friend who talked about these colonial boarding schools, and from the age of 3, they are taken away from their family, from their culture, and put up in residential schools. Now when they come back for holidays, they can't speak Tibetan. They can speak only Chinese. So when the whole world is embracing multiculturalism, China is promoting one nation, one culture, one language.
世界全体が現在は多文化主義ということを訴えている中にあって、中国だけは一つの国、一つの文化、一つの言語だけだということを相変わらず主張しています。
My friend mentioned about not being able to organize tuitions, teaching at home. It's the same with the children in other areas where you are not even allowed to go for tuitions during the vacations. So at all levels there are control. I'm sure you must have heard a report about the drying up of Yangtze in the last few months, and this is happening for the first time that Yangtze's level has come down by 50%. We call our land as the land surrounded by snow mountain ranges. So we have mountain ranges all around. The size of Tibet is about 6 times the size of Japan, but the population of Japan is 20 times more than Tibet. Our area is very big, just like Mongolia or Uyghur, because it's only the population of Uyghurs, Mongols and Tibetans are only about 6% of the overall population of China. I was telling Raitoku University students yesterday that your highest mountain in Japan, Mount Fuji, is like the base camp in Tibet. Because the average altitude of Tibet is about 12,000 feet above sea level, which is almost same as Mount Fuji. Because of its altitude, the Westerners started calling Tibet the roof of the world. Today, even Chinese environmental scientists call Tibet the third pole, North Pole, South Pole, and Tibet Pole. Because it has the largest amounts of permafrost and glaciers that feeds all these major rivers, whether it's Yellow River that goes into North China, whether it's the Yangtze River that goes into South China, whether it's the Mekong that goes into Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Burma, or whether it's the Brahmaputra that goes into India and Pakistan, the Indus that goes into India and the Brahmaputra that goes into India and Bangladesh, and the Indus that goes into India and Pakistan. So all these major rivers, some 10 major rivers of Asia originate from Tibet. That is why Asians call Tibet the water tower of Asia, and the environmental scientists call Tibet the third pole. The international community organizes climate change conferences, but nobody discusses about what is happening inside Tibet. Or, as my Mongolian friend said, the desertification issues in Mongolia or in Uyghur. So there are so many environmental challenges that concerns not only Tibet, Uyghur, and the Mongols. Why? The reason is that nobody wants to antagonize China. Now let's go to the next stage of what I want to say. Because many people feel the reason why, because when I come to Japan also, I could sense this fear of China, whether it's from the government or whether it's from quarters that are close to China. So one thing that every one of us should know is that China will respect only strength, not weakness. So you have to stand up to your position. Otherwise, China will treat you like a pony and they'll keep riding you over and over again. Many believe China is very powerful. Maybe outwardly, militarily, politically, economically, China is powerful, but China is bereft of moral power. China has a lot of chinks in its armor. There are many weak points. I see China as a very insecure China today. Because I live in India and I keep thinking about why China is attacking India in Ladakh. Same with Taiwan or in South China Sea. Now Japan is also facing this danger of military exercises in the Japan Sea. And leave alone the prevailing controversies that you have on the control of the islands in Senkaku. China's weakness, number one, I was told that not more than 3 Politburo members can meet together without the express permission of the President of China. Because the President fears internal coup. And the second reason is during President Xi Jinping's time, all the military generals are moved periodically. They are not put up in one place to build better relations with their cadres. So there is no scope for military coup. And then why is China the only country who spends more money on internal security than external security? That shows a deep distrust between the rulers and the ruled. It's not just us representing different people here, but it's also the Chinese people inside inside China. So right now, China's concern is only the survival of the Communist Party. And that is why they keep these hotspots burning. If there is a threat to the survival of the Communist Party, then they will attack one of these places to make sure that nationalism is built up in the Chinese people for the survival of the Communist Party. So we understand that from the August Badahe meeting, where they have their internal discussions on future leadership. In August, they hold every year, every 5 years. So at the Badahe meeting, we do get this sense that President Xi Jinping got a little pushback from other leaders, but it's not enough to stop him from a third term. And we also know of the many economic challenges that China has to face, but it's not enough to bring China down or the Communist Party down. So we are looking at a scenario of Xi Jinping being there for another 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, or 5 years, 10 years, or maybe for life, who knows. But the thing is, when one person is so very powerful, he can take credit for all the good things, but he will also be blamed for all the wrong things. Before the pandemic, there were not many countries who could speak up against China. So the US has learned that, and they have taken very strong position on Tibet and Uyghurs and others.
反応しております。
Europeans are just waking up to this idea because trouble has knocked on their door.
です。
Japan's position has been more pacifist, but now we can see that Japan is also very strong on Ukraine, and we really appreciate that. Ms. Sakurai mentioned about learning from the United States. There have been quite a steps taken by United States. For one, when United States and China had this trade relation, when they signed this trade treaty in 2001, they also made sure that US will oversee human rights conditions inside China. So that is why every year they produce a report on human rights situation inside China that includes Mongols, Uyghurs, Tibetans, Hong Kongers, Macau, and even Taiwan, and pro-democracy or the democratic movement in China. So that report is very useful for the Congress to refer to. US is the only country that has a law on Tibet and now on Uyghur. Under that law, there was this appointment of special coordinator for Tibet.
そしてこの米国のチベットに関する法律の下では、チベット担当の特別コーディネーターを任命するとあります。
Create a special coordinator's post for Tibet, but I think it would be justified to say, to call on the Japanese government to appoint a special coordinator on China, which looks after through which the Uyghurs, the Mongols, and the Tibetans can reach out to just one office to express our grievance, so that we don't have to reach out everywhere. You know the limitation of our human and financial resources. So will the Japanese politicians have the courage to do that, the determination to do that? Will the government be willing to take up this responsibility? These are major questions. And the US has also moved another act called the Reciprocal Access to Tibet Act. Through that, the idea behind that is diplomacy is all about reciprocity. So if Japanese have a visa, if a Chinese have a visa to come to Japan, they can visit any part of Japan. But if a Japanese goes to China, to go to Tibet, you need another permit. So why can't Japanese who have visa to go to China have access to Uyghur, to Mongolia, and to Tibet? Why cannot that be granted? That is the whole essence of this reciprocal access bill, act, sorry. The one argument that I've been seeing in Europe is also, and the same I think should be in Japan, that you have too much business interests with China. Now, who made China powerful? It is Americans, it's Europeans, it's Japanese, it's Taiwanese. They are all responsible for making China what China is today because of your investments. Now we have reached such a stage that you enrich China, and then China uses that to create fear on you, and the Japanese are fearful of China. So it's your own resources they are using to instill fear in you. People talk about sanctions. Now, sanction, of course, is one way of handling authoritarian regimes. But then the more important question is, can you ask your own business people not to invest in China? Diversify somewhere else. It's not only China. There are so many other countries. Now, when China is not listening to you, then why do you still work towards making China more powerful? So I think the main message should go to Japanese business people who have invested in China. Because of their business lobby, it creates that sentiment amongst politicians, and politicians are also forced to take up certain positions because of that. Now, if the Japanese business people think that this is the only good opportunity for them to make money, they should also think about the flip side. Tomorrow, if the Chinese government decide to do something, they may go bankrupt. I'm not a soothsayer, I'm not a future, I'm not a soothsayer in that sense. But if you try to use logic, that threat, that danger will always be there. Thank you. So I again pay my respect to late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and I hope the Japanese people will keep up his legacy, as Ms. Sakurai mentioned several times during her presentation, and she became very teary-eyed thinking about Prime Minister Abe, and let's hope common sense prevails in this world and that there is more peace in this world. Thank you so much.